hold my hands up to start with and say I do not believe any book is unadaptable. Hello, my name's Duncan and welcome to Back Away from Donkey and Bath Books. This is not the video I was making. It's been very busy here in Donkey Towers recently. Just got back to the vets, not for me, for one of my little dogs. But you don't want to know that. So let's get on with what I'm here today. So I've realised that people had the same idea as me. Last week, I was watching some videos, and from a booktuber called Ramel Broadcasting. I may have the name wrong. And it was about unadaptable books that cannot be adapted. And he also had one on 5 books that he thought were the best adaptations. And then I noticed yesterday or the day before that Steve Donahue did a video as a follow-up to that, which I was thinking about doing anyway, so Steve beat me to it, and I watched Steve videos. So I'm going to link to both these videos below, but I'm going to go through Ramel's ones about what he said was unadaptable and what he said wasn't unadaptable, and then I'm going to throw some of my own ideas in there. I will hold my hands up to start with and say I do not believe any book is unadaptable. Whether it's a good adaptation, that is a different thing. But no book is unadaptable. You can adapt anything. And I think a lot of it goes on to the viewer. The expectations of the viewer of the media is... The problem is when people love books, they want an exact copy of that book done into film or TV. And it's a totally different medium. You can't represent the same things in the same medium because that's one you look at and one you listen, you read. It's totally different. So I think that is part of the issue some people have when their favourite books are adapted and they don't like that adaptation. I've got some which I could say is a good adaptation, but I wouldn't say that I actually like what they are. Does this all make sense to you? Because I'm trying to work out if it makes sense to me. So anyway, over the videos we saw from that I'm almost responding to Ramel's, his first ones were his best adaptations, and I'm going to tell you what he said, and I will do some comments on mine on this. See, his best one, he started off, I've got a piece of paper here because I had to write this down. He started off with The Expanse. The TV series of The Expanse is really, really good. As a hard science fiction series, probably the best thing, sort of hard sci-fi that's been on TV for quite a few years. I've not read the books. I've got about 3 of them back there, and I keep set books I've not got around to yet. So I cannot comment on the actual adaptation. But from what I've heard from people, that it is a pretty goodish adaptation of the books. And so his 4th one was Annihilation. And I found this weird because I've not read the book of this, but I've seen the film. I think it was Amazon Annihilation, and I wasn't a fan of it. As a film, I felt it was rather pretentious. It wanted to desperately be 2001. In fact, it tried too hard, and it sort of tried to steal bits off of Roadside Picnic as well, and it was all... Yeah, it didn't work for me at all. So then we got on to his next one, was Alita Battle Angel. Now, this is another one that I don't know the source... Pardon me. I do not know the source material very well. It looked pretty, but it was a bit flat for me. This was a bit flat. And then his next one was a Dune, the Denis Villeneuve Dune. Now, I've seen this and I've read the book and I've seen obviously the David Lynch version. I love the David Lynch version. I will say the Denis Villeneuve one, it looked beautiful. I found some of the choices in it rather strange when they changed stuff from the book or didn't include things, and I found it all a bit vanilla, a bit bland. It repeated some of the same mistakes that David Lynch has done, but without the flair of David Lynch. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it, and I still watch it, but as an adaptation, I just found it rather bland. And that's probably going against the grain of what a lot of people think. It's... Yeah, I can't explain my feelings about it, really. And it could come back to the fact that I do love the David Lynch version, but the David Lynch version is so flawed. But it's like I think the quote is from Sid Vicious. It's a fabulous disaster, and it really, really is. But at Denis Villeneuve, I said, yeah, it was, yeah, looked brilliant, looked beautiful. That was it. I actually think the better adaptation of Dune is the sci-fi miniseries from 1999. Sci-Fi Channel did a miniseries of it, and that's got its issues, but I actually think that's a better adaptation than both those ones. As if you're talking adaptations, and if you've not seen it, it's well worth seeing it if you're a Dune fan. So yeah, so on to his next one he picked. The next one he picked was Doctor Sleep, which is obviously Stephen King. I do not know that book. I've not read it, so couldn't tell you anything about that. I've not even seen the film. And the next one was Shogun, which was the new version of Shogun, which is a glorious, glorious TV program, a glorious adaptation. But I would put on par with that the 1980s Shogun, which takes it from a slightly different angle, but it's still a very good adaptation of the book. The one with Richard Chamberlain. Richard Chamberlain was in any mini-series back in the early 80s. So if you've not seen that. And his number 2 was 2001, which I think was a bit of a cheat. Because 2001 is very, very loosely based on Arthur C. Clarke's short story, The Sentinel. But Arthur C. Clarke wrote the script in conjunction with Stanley Kubrick, along with writing the book to do it. So it's not... To say it's an adaptation is pushing it. I really wouldn't count it as an adaptation. But his list, if he wants to count it, that's fine. I've got no problems with that. And his number 1 for his favourite, and what he considered the best adaptation, was A Scanner Darkly from Philip K. Dick, the book. And as you know, I love Philip K. Dick. I hate this film. I hate this film with a passion. And it's not because it's not... Technically, it is a good adaptation. It is really well taken from the book. But they use this weird rotoscoping method to put this animation over the top. And it just gave me a migraine, and I hated every part of that. If they'd just got rid of the bloody rotoscoping and just did it as a straightforward film, it would have been really good. I think they just spoiled it that way. But that was me. That was just mine. So yeah, so that was his favourite. Is it Rammel? Rammel Broadcasting? I don't know the guy's name, which I apologise for if he sees this. That was his favourite adaptations. And I said I find it hard to have favourite adaptations. I've got some stuff that I would say that one that speaks to mind has been a really good adaptation is Roadside Picnic, which is a great adaptation. I think that was adapted into the great film Stalker. I'll show you my version here, which is a stunning, stunning film. I think that's a really, really good adaptation. Other ones that come to mind is Colossus, the book Colossus, which was adapted to the film Colossus the Forbin Project. It's quite an old science fiction film. It's actually a very, very good different adaptations. But yes, I said I don't think anything is technically unadaptable. Sorry, I'm just going to get my piece of paper back. And what he did on the other one was saying the books that he thinks are unadaptable. And I said, I do not believe any book is unadaptable. Whether it's a good adaptation is another thing. Example for me would be the recent TV series of Foundation on Apple, which to me is a terrible adaptation. It's like they read the notes on the back of the book and then did something totally different. It does not represent the book or the philosophy within the book at all. But it's still an adaptation and it's still adaptable, but you just did something different with it. And I've got no problems with adaptations being totally different to the books in a way if they take the themes. A good example actually is Blade Runner, because Blade Runner is an adaptation of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but it almost takes the opposite tact to the book. The film is all about what it is, what is a human being, and the book is more about what it's like not being human. It's the differences are really. Does that make sense? Probably. I keep saying that makes sense, but yes, the Book of Androids is almost the opposite tact. And I don't want to go too far much into it. I've got a lot of stuff I could go on to that, but I'm hopefully doing a video on that next year. But that's another story. So yes, so let's go on to the other video, which was about the unadaptable books. Started with Ramel by Murakami. I don't know Murakami. I've never read any, so I cannot comment on that. Next one was The Dark Tower. Well, to me, that's already been adapted. Whether you argue whether it's a good or bad adaptation, it's been adapted. It is adaptable. Somebody's managed to take what it was and adapt it. Whether you like it, doesn't matter. It was adapted. Could there be better adaptations? Probably. But it was adapted. The other unadapted one is Valis. This is probably the closest you could come to unadaptable. Philip K. Dick's Valis is, yes, probably the closest thing you could come to an unadaptable book. But I still think it's a possibility. Somebody could come along with the right concept of the way to present these ideas. It would be adaptable. Next one is House of Leaves by Mark Dozlowski. It's another book I do not know. But his number one choice of unadaptable books I found a bit weird was The Book of the New Sun from Gene Wolfe, one of my favourite authors. I actually think this is probably an easyish one to adapt. It would need to be a series of films or series of books, but narratively, you're seeing it from the point of Severin, the seeker of truth and penitence. You're seeing it from his point of view. But I think you could, as much as I think if you did the perspective right, because there's lots of things in the book, it's because his point of view and his distorted because he's an unreliable narrator. But if you did it right, you could do it. But also, narratively, the story goes on because he's travelling. And I actually think it would be not straightforward to adapt, but it really doesn't come across to me as a really difficult one to adapt. It's whether somebody would have the money and the will to do it total justice. That would be the main thing. Not the fact it's unadaptable, but do it justice. So I'm just going to pick at the end here a couple of books I think. This one I think would be easily adaptable. It's Jonathan Lethem, Fortress of Solitude, a book I love, which is about two boys growing up in Brooklyn in the 1970s, one black, one white, and the difficulties that ensues. And they love superheroes, and it's basically about what would happen if they gained superpowers and it all went a bit wrong. But I think because of the sort of story it is, that would be well adaptable. And I'm surprised more of his books haven't been leapt up. One I think, not unadaptable, but I think it would be incredibly difficult to adapt, is Lord Faust Bane, The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, by Stephen Donaldson. You know, the books, people either really like them or really hate them, seems to be. The protagonist, he is such an unlikable character. He put before Grimdark, the pseudo genre that it is, was decided upon. This was dark before that. But yes, he's such an unlikable character. Trying to film that and create it and give across why he's unlikable and why that brings the story together, but also make it watchable, because there would be a horrible chance, which I know people who read the book and just hated moments of it all the way through it because he's so unlikable. So you really would struggle to do that, to actually pull people in, especially pull people in who don't know the actual original works. So yes, as I said, Steve Donoghue did a good video on this yesterday, so I'll link to that below. And the Ramel Broadcasting, I probably got his name wrong again, I will link to his two videos on this. But I said, as far as I'm concerned, nothing is unadaptable. We can all adapt something. Anyway, I hope this sort of rambling discussion-y one has done you okay, and I will speak to you all very, very soon.